Today we're going to make some hash browns. I'm going to show you how that process is done. These hash browns will be awesome. You'll have them for your family and you can eat them all year long. We're going to freeze some in our freezer, put them in some bags, and then we're also going to show you how to do some freeze drying. Not everybody has a freeze dryer, but we'll show you how. Anyway, come on over here. I'll show you what we've got. Got my daughter running the camera. So we've got some potatoes here. These are obviously the reds, the new potatoes. We've cut them to size, so they're all about the same size, and that's important because the next step, what we need to do is bring them to a boil. And I've got some russets going on in here and some other russets here. These russets are about done. I'm bringing them to a boil. I'm not fully cooking them. I just have to cook them enough that a fork could somewhat easily get into it. That's an important process because that keeps the potato from browning. Anyway, so let's do that, and then our next step is to pull these out. Now if I was doing this not on a video, I would have my food processor a lot closer to my pot here, but I wanted to put that over there so you could see the process. Now it's really important that I cut these potatoes because they've got to fit in this little hole of the food processor. Not everybody has a food processor, but it's a great tool if you've got one. Otherwise, just cut it up in little chunks, however you like your hash browns or what have you that you'll have. So let's process this. Okay, we just keep doing that through a few iterations until that container is full, and then I'll show you what to do after that. Okay. This is, we just filled our container. We're going to take off our top here, or take it rather off the food processor. We're going to bring this over here to our sink. Set that to the side. This is really hot. Those potatoes are hot that way. Just dump that right in there. This process, like I said, it's so hot because we brought our potatoes to a boil. You can see they're steaming. I like to rinse some of the starch off. We have it in a little colander here, and I'm just gonna kind of knead it and work it a little bit. I don't want to get these potatoes too cooked. It's really important because I don't want mashed potatoes. I just want to make some nice hash browns. Just work these. All right. Now I think what we'll do is we're ready for the next step. Try to get a little bit of water off. First batch we'll go in the freezer. So I want to get them pretty dry rather than bring all that water into the freezer. Okay, next step. So I'll just bring one of my trays here. I'm just gonna grab a handful. I like to just make a nice little square. The handful works out pretty well. I just section them off. Okay. Looks like we're going to get about 6 per tray, or at least a tray this size. Probably that big tray will get 8 or 10. And I'll freeze them up this way, and what the end product will be is I'll freeze them for, oh, I don't know, maybe 10 hours or so before they're frozen. Might be probably best to just go overnight. Then the next morning I'll take these out and we'll put them in a bag, and then I'll put them in my freezer. We'll show you that. Okay, now I got my hands all gooped up. Got to get me some wax paper. I like to separate the trays. Because my freezer doesn't have a lot of room, what I like to do is I like to lay the trays on top of each other, kind of like so they don't get stuck. So anyway, we'll go to the next step. I'll do a bunch more trays and we'll get them set up. Okay, we're over here at my in-laws' house. We've got a big bowl of the potatoes ready to go. We're going to do some freeze drying, and they have a freeze dryer. I'm going to borrow it, and we'll give it a go. But to prepare it, we just grab the mix here. We put it in a tray. This is parchment paper. It helps with the non-stick. There we go. We just spread that nice and about the depth of the tray. Just get that all ready. Okay, I've got a few more trays to do. Okay, so now we're ready to put it in the freeze dryer. We're just going to slide them all the way in, and then it takes about 30 hours before they're ready. So let's slide them in, and at the end of the 30 we'll check them and see that the consistency is good. They should be dry with no soft spots. Just slide these in. And then we'll close it up and let it do its thing. Okay, so now we have our potatoes ready. They've been in the freezer for over 24 hours. I got busy and couldn't get to them. That works out okay. They're just going to go back in the freezer once I take them out of these trays. You can see that they've frozen up real nice. The colors stayed consistent. They didn't brown, and that's why we boiled them in the water before we grated them. It's really important, and let me stress again, you don't want to cook them too much. You don't want to boil them too much. If you do, you'll get mashed potatoes. You just want to get the potato just soft enough that you can begin to put a fork in it. You're going to fry these up anyway, so you don't want to cook them all the way. But that cooking process, the boiling of it, just helps again to stay the brown, so they don't turn brown. So I wanted to show you that. What we're going to do now is just pop these out of the tray, and then I'll put them in these bags. I'm going to write on these bags and you know what it is and when I get it. They're going to be great. I love a good hash brown, especially on Sunday morning, a tradition we have. Just enjoy that. Let me show you the end result of the freeze drying of the potatoes as well. These have already been dried. You can see the consistency. It's really quite, well, they're super light and just dry as freeze dried are. The beauty of these is I can fill my freezer up with the frozen hash browns, and then I can store these off to the side. These don't have to be frozen. Of course, I'll rehydrate them just prior to cooking them up and see how that goes for me. So I don't have a lot of experience with these, but I'm sure they'll be tasty. So anyway, thanks for your time. Good luck with hash browns.